venue is Silverstone, but for a change it's not a motor race meeting we're attending, it's actually a rally sprint, and it's going to feature one-make cars, and that means the Skodas, the Peugeots, the Daihatsus and the Ford Kas. Well, a rally sprint is quite an unusual event because it enables two cars to go around the circuit at once. So actually, cars are running together, more or less like a race, but not quite. The idea is that, of course, the sprint circuit is quite fast and the cars are going over the same hazards at the same time. Ford Motor Company are using the KA Championship as a springboard for young drivers to get into the World Rally Championship. I have with me Alex Catamol from Ford Motorsport, who is the manager behind most of these schemes and is going to give me some more information on how it's going to work for young drivers. Alex, how's it going to work for young drivers?
Well, basically we looked at the rally scene across Europe as a whole, and we decided that world rally cars are becoming far too expensive for the normal run-of-the-mill kind of guy involved in rallying, and therefore we decided to look at cars that are more cost-effective, more affordable for the individual to own and run themselves. So we decided to look at the car KA, as we call it in the business, and we thought that something around about the £15,000 mark would be a good starting point for an entry-level car into the motorsport environment.
Well, this is a Ford KA rally car, and this is Mark Nuttall, who's the owner, and Mark is now going to show us around the car and tell us exactly why it's so different from the standard Ford KA road car. Well, Mark, obviously quite a few modifications carried out to the car. What do you have to do to start with?
Well, first of all, this car was built at Boreham by Ford, but it differs. Obviously, the first thing is it's left-hand drive. If you look inside, there's no carpets, and all the bits of weight and plastic are stripped completely out. Competition seats fitted, a lot of safety equipment fitted, such as the fire extinguishers, which are mandatory in motorsport, and they have a present roll cage.
Now, the other safety precautions you mentioned there, what other safety precautions you've got to do regarding fuel?
Well, every rally car really should have the fuel lines running on the inside of the car. Obviously that's to protect it against stones ripping them off underneath. These are sort of steel braided ones which run along the inside and then straight into the engine bay.
Okay, and obviously with the standard car this has normally got air conditioning fitted to it as well, so you had all that taken out, all the other unnecessary electrical things are taken out there. And what's that strange little black box that's mounted on the side there by the co-driver?
That's his little computer. That's got absolutely nothing to do with me, and I haven't a clue how it works.
Oh, I'll pass over that one then. But obviously, what other things have you had to do with the engine, for example? Is the engine a standard engine, or has that been tuned?
The engine is tuned. It's got, for a start off, it's got a limited slip diff in the engine. It's got a different camshaft. Makes it much more free revving and gives it a little bit more torque in the mid-range, and it's got a super chip in it.
So what sort of difference are we looking at on a power basis?
About 25 brake horsepower.
That's quite a handful, really, because the standard car as itself is quite a fast vehicle. I mean, I've driven one on the road at 120 miles an hour, allegedly. That was over in Belgium when we went over to the Belgian round there. And as a standard car, I found they're quite good handling. Do you think it's one of the best handling cars for rallying or not?
This is absolutely a superb car to drive. I've driven other cars before this, but this has got Proflex suspension on, which is top-notch stuff. And we've just come across from the Isle of Man, and it's absolutely wonderful. It just handles like a go-kart.
Formula One fans will have no difficulty recognising the young lady on my left. She is, of course, the famous pit lane commentator from the Formula One team, Louise Goodman. Now, Louise, what are you doing a rally?
Well, it started last year, really. I was invited to have a go in a car, and it's sort of gone on from there. Ford then said to me, would I like to have a go at the Ford Rally Car Championship? So that's what I'm doing.
Have you ever driven a rally car before?
I've done about 4 events in the past, 2 rounds of the championship so far this season, and I've missed one when I was away at a Grand Prix, so a little bit of experience, but not very much.
So did you just leap into the car and start learning, or did somebody teach you?
Well, initially I sort of, yes, leapt in and made it up as I went along, but once I knew I was going to be doing the championship, I decided I'd better go and have some lessons, so I went down to the Bill Gwynn Rally School just down in Turweston, not far from Silverstone, and Peter Gwynn, my instructor there, has been brilliant, so at least I know what I'm supposed to be doing now, even if I haven't quite got the hang of doing it properly.
So you've got no ambition to leap into a Formula 3 car or a single-seater then?
I'll leap into anything, to be honest. Anything anybody hands the keys to me, I will leap into it. I mean, I like cars. You have to like cars to do my job, so any opportunity to get behind the wheel, I'll give it a go.
Well, Daihatsu Rally Championship is also represented here today, and one of the youngest drivers, in fact the youngest driver in the championship, is Mark Thomas. Well, Mark, why did you choose the Daihatsu Championship as a championship?
Well, we were up in the motor show, we were up in Earl's Court. We saw the car and it looked a nice little thing. And when we saw the price, it was even better. There's a nice cheap sport. You can do the whole season for like £4,000. The car's only 13,700. I mean, compared to the other challenges, it's very cheap. Like.
Obviously, you're not doing too badly in this year's championship.
Well, the first event was a bit of a disaster. Of course, we missed Millbrook end because we had to reshell the car. I'm having good fun today now. I had a bit of an upset in the last one, but it's going well so far.
If you actually move on to another championship next year, would you stay with Daihatsu or would you change to another championship?
No, we're still going to be here next year to do it. So it's a good championship, all a good bunch of people. It's a good laugh.
You see, it's a good long-term move as a driver.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, thanks. Another single-make championship represented up here at Silverstone today is, of course, the Skoda Trophy. And one of the drivers competing today is Mike White, who's been doing it for a number of years now. And Mike, what sort of success have you had in the championship?
It's good competition, and there's we're quicker on tarmac than we are on the forest, and we need more practice in the forest. It's a really good series, and the car's competitive, and the car's reliable and cheap to run.
What sort of costs are you looking at for a season?
For a season, about £8,000 total running cost. And
but obviously that doesn't include the cost of the car in the first place.
No, the car's about another £8,000 to build. I build my own car from scratch. Just buy a standard road car and put the cage in and do all the modifications and suspension mods and go out and drive it, really.
Why did you choose the Skoda Championship in the first place?
It's the best one-make series, value for money, and it's a good reliable car, so it fits my pocket.
And one of the other one-make championships represented at Silverstone Rallysprint is Nissan and the Nissan Micra Challenge, and one of the drivers is Oliver Boakes, who's with me. Oliver, how long have you been doing the championship for?
This is now my second year of driving in the championship. Last year was okay, we were in the slightly less powerful cars, but this year all the cars are the same, and we're having fun. Second in the championship at the moment, so it's going well.
How do you like the new circuit up here at Silverstone?
It's a good circuit, it's okay for professional drivers, yeah. It's very tight, no room for error or anything like that. Obviously there'll be a few accidents, I think there's been a couple already today. Tight and slippery though.
Well, as a driver, why did you actually choose the Micra Championship above all the others, or the other one-make championships you could have chosen? I
felt Nissan were very behind the championship as a manufacturer. They had a lot to offer if we won the championship or if we win the championship. I feel it's a very competitive championship as well. A lot of the other championships are also very competitive, but I felt the Micra had the edge. The slightly better car as well, I felt, out of all of them.
It does have a reputation for being one of the most expensive championships, though.
It is probably to get into it, yeah. Once you're into it, I'd not agree with that. The cars are excellent cars, so you're paying for probably the better product, I would think.
Well, Rallysprint actually started by accident at the start of the RAC Rally many, many years ago, when it was actually cancelled because of an outbreak of foot and mouth disease. And unfortunately, the teams were there, the cars were all there, and they didn't have anything to do. So, to make things a little bit easier for the TV companies that didn't have anything to film, somebody had a brilliant idea of using a field, setting up a track, and letting the top people run around at speed just to get some coverage for TV. And that's how Rallysprints were actually started. And that's how they've gone from strength to strength, because obviously from a TV point of view, they're very easy to cover, and from a driver point of view, they're less damaging than doing an actual rally. Well, a gentleman who did the KA Rally Championship a couple of seasons ago now is Gethin Jones, and he's gone up the ladder a little bit since we last spoke to him. Gethin, what are you doing this season?
Well, luckily I've been put on an F2 escort by Ford and doing a National Rally Championship in it.
And how are you getting on with that?
It's been a bit of a learning curve, obviously fairly different to the KA, but we're having an interesting time. One very good result and a little accident on the last one, unfortunately.
Oh, so will the car be ready for the next round?
Yeah, I guarantee it. Chris Burke's guys will get the car ready without fail.
I know last time we spoke you were having great difficulty finding sponsorship. Has that situation changed any or not?
Hasn't really changed that much, no. My overdraft's getting bigger, but we're still out there rallying, looking for sponsors.
And do you think doing the KA Championship helped you in your efforts to become a top rally driver?
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't have got this opportunity with the F2 car without winning the KA Rally Championship. Ford have given me this chance and I aim to make the most of it.
Well, we've moved inside the car now and we're going to talk about one-make championships in the UK and why they're so important to drivers trying to make their way into the top echelons of the sport. Well, Mark, obviously you've done two one-make championships. I think you did the Skoda one, now you're doing the KA one. Mm-hmm. What is it from the driver's point of view that attracts you to do one-make rallying?
I think initially it's cost, and it's a solid basis to start from. You're up against your peers. In single make, they're more or less the same car, so you're able to judge yourself against the other competitors more. And also, if you just go out and buy yourself a Cosworth or something like that, it's a lot of money to start with. And with single make championships, you usually offer good prize money as well, and it's a stepping stone to get onto bigger and higher things.
Well, last year, obviously, I think was the first time the Ford Ka was actually launched as a rally championship, and it wasn't very well subscribed. There was quite a few people who were interested in doing it, but I think people were worried because they thought, okay, it's a new thing, that we'll wait and see what happens. And this year, I think it's got, what, 15 entries this year, so it's gone quite well. When you're looking at the Skoda Championship, for example, that's been going for a number of years now, and that's one you've had experience of. Would you say that compared in any way, shape or form what's happening with the Ka Championship?
I'd say they're both front-wheel drive. And that's about it.
Right.
To be fair to Skoda, they have been going a long time. They're a good car. They're exceedingly good on the stages. The thing that attracted me to Ford, yes, they were expensive last year, but Ford have gone into this and they've addressed all the problems, all the expenses. Ford are right behind this championship. They're pushing it very, very hard. The PR is incredible. And the actual product itself is just a joy to drive.
Now, I have a secret, and I'm quite willing to share it with you because I know that you like cars. This secret has been known about only in Europe up until now, but we here in the UK are about to discover that the name Skoda is not to be laughed at anymore. Because the secret is that Skoda now build damn fine cars. Now, we all know that Skoda used to be the butt of many comedians' jokes. They would build cheap, tinny, unreliable East European cars, but no longer, because Skoda are part of a much bigger picture since being incorporated into the Volkswagen family. And that means German build quality, tight panel caps, carefully designed cabins, and an Audi veteran as the head of their design and styling team. And this is the car that Skoda are to launch into the UK right now. It's called the new Octavia. And it's a car that is a secret no longer. Now, the Octavia is the first car to use Volkswagen Group's A platform, which it shares along with the Audi A3 and the new Golf. Rear seat passengers don't do too badly. Plenty of space for them in the back, some good headroom and comfortable seats. But it's in the rear here that is truly excellent. How about that for a cavernous boot? Absolutely bags of space. And it's also here at the rear where I think the Octavia looks like one of its rivals most. It looks to me like a Vauxhall Vectra at the back, slight reminiscence of that. If you take away that Skoda badge, this car would sell like hotcakes. Now, inside the cabin, it positively reeks of quality, and so it should do, because many of the controls are straight out of Audi and Volkswagen cars. Things like that door handle, perfect for a VW or an Audi. You'd find these window controls also in an Audi or a Volkswagen. But what you want to know most about this car is how it drives. So let's see. Inside the cabin of the Octavia, a lot of thought and effort have gone in. There's plenty of room, the controls are all quality, and the seats are very comfortable. Although I'm not tremendously happy with the actual driving position. You feel as if you want to push the seat back a bit to straighten your legs out more, but this is as far as it'll go. The steering's very responsive, the handling's good, and there's plenty of poke from this 1.6 litre engine. Now you get a choice of 5 engines. There's the entry-level LXI, which is a 1.6 litre producing 75 brake horsepower. There's the GLXI, which is this model, again 1.6 litre producing 101 brake horsepower. There's the souped-up 1.8 litre 20 valve producing 125 brake horsepower. And if you must have a diesel, well, you get a choice of 2, both 1.9 litre TDIs producing either 90 or 110 brake horsepower. Paul, who would you identify as the typical buyer for the new Octavia?
Well, there's no one particular group. We believe there's quite a few groups that will start looking at it particularly carefully. But there is one set of buyers in particular that all the research we've done points out as being prime targets for Octavia. And that's mainly the young family. I mean, they're at the stage of their lives where money's very, very tight. Mortgage, kids, everything's going on at the same time. They don't want to be frittering away an awful lot of money on a car that doesn't meet all their requirements. They need something that's a big car, a great deal of space inside, something reliable that they can trust will not break down all the time, and something that doesn't cost a great deal of money to run as well. So we think the Octavia is a prime vehicle for themselves.
What sort of sector would you put this car in, and who would you view as its main rivals?
I mean, in terms of size, build quality and specification, it's undoubtedly an upper medium car, so it's up against 406, Ford Mondeo, Vauxhall Vectra. But in terms of pricing, then the vehicle is much more. It can appeal much more to lower medium cars such as Escort, Astra buyers, in the sector in between, Rover 400, Fiat, Mirai, Mitsubishi Charisma. We feel they're all areas where we can take customers from, and they'd be very appreciative of a vehicle like the Octavia.
Now, being honest about things, Paul, Skoda have not had a great reputation in the past for building fantastic quality cars, and presumably the takeover by Volkswagen a few years ago has helped produce good cars like this now.
Undoubtedly. I mean, without the investment that Volkswagen have put in, vehicles like this just wouldn't have been built. When Skoda was a brand producing cheap cars in the bottom sector of the market, there was never going to be the possibility of investment selling cars at that sort of pricing. So Volkswagen have come along, invested it heavily in the company, 800 million Deutschmarks so far, and that's given us the opportunity to produce good value for money vehicles that have got a very high quality level. We can now go forward and sell those cars for an awful lot more than they were originally, like the old Steels, the Rapids. Not physically huge amounts of money, but cars that are now value for money rather than being cheap. And that's making an enormous difference, enabling us to then reinvest for more vehicles for the future.
I think Skoda have come up with a real winner here in the shape of the new Octavia, and I think a lot of that has to do with the input from the Volkswagen Group. There's no doubt that if you've ever owned a Skoda before, you'll be amazed at how much these cars have come on. Skoda aim to sell around 8,000 Octavias a year, and that should make it a very familiar sight on our roads. So now you know my little secret. It's up to you what you do about it.
Hello there, Roy Brooks here. Welcome to my rather cluttered garage. Mind you, I hope there's a fair amount of interesting clutter in here. Just have a look at this. It's the manual for a Morris 6. If I just sit down here, it'll be easier. Now, Morris 6 1929, and there we've got a picture of the Morris 6 chassis, and you'll notice that there's no body on it. You would buy a body, of course, in those days, but you could buy them without and have your own body fitted on. But if you ever find one of these, not necessarily just the Morris, in a flea market or whatever, lots and lots of lovely interesting items in here, well worth reading, better than a library book. For example, it will tell you how to replace the camshaft driving chain. Quite a complex thing, sort of costs you lots and lots of money to do these days. You probably wouldn't have that sort of information. They did expect the driver then, or the owner, to be able to do all sorts of jobs. Another little interesting item here is called the Autovac. And there we are, that's the Autovac. You might say, what's an Autovac? Well, in fact, it's in place of the petrol pump. Believe me, they were very, very reliable indeed. And why aren't they fitted? Well, because they were fairly big, perhaps 8 inches tall, something like that, and maybe 5 inches in diameter, some of them, and they had to be high up above the carburettor because the petrol was sucked up to the inner chamber, it dropped through to the outer chamber and then went down to the carburettor by gravity. Makes you really wonder about this. Chassis frame, straightening and fitting one new side member. That would mean taking the body off and putting it back again afterwards and everything. £9. Well, these days for £9 you couldn't get inside a garage. Never mind get your chassis frame straightened. So a thing like this then perhaps cost you £5 or £10, not much more than a couple of magazines, but really something to treasure and enjoy and be well worthwhile reading. Well, we've got to say cheerio now, but do be with me next week and we'll have some more super items.